So as I told you before, we're trying to pair together sort of harmful impacts of human use of land and water with less harmful impacts. And so we just talked about pesticides and lots of the potential damaging effects of the use of pesticides. So what are some alternatives? Well, one of the most important is something called IPM, Integrated Pest Management. Integrated pest management is not a single thing or technique. It's actually a system of managing pests that utilizes a variety of ways of controlling those pests, therefore reducing the use of pesticides and reducing the environmental impact. And so here's sort of the principles of IPM. If a person had a farm and wanted to use IPM to control any pests, they would sort of follow this system, this philosophy. And it starts with prevention. So if you can prevent an infestation with a pest, then obviously that's ideal because it doesn't then require any pesticide use or any extreme tactics to control a pest. So prevention is the first and one of the most important strategies in IPM. Crops are constantly monitored to see what types of pests are present and what types of natural control mechanisms might be used to control any infestation. And then once an infestation of pests is found, the intervention uses techniques primarily that are less harmful to the environment. So it's the pest has to be looked at. The most appropriate intervention has to be decided upon, that's cost effective, that's environmentally sound, and then it's used to hopefully control those species. So what are some of these techniques that can be used? One technique is called biocontrol. This is an example of biocontrol. Biocontrol is using a predator to control a pest. You could actually buy these ladybugs on Amazon, and you can get a bag of them and dump them into your garden. Okay, and what these insects do is they prey upon common pests to plants, like these aphids that we see here. Aphids can destroy the foliage of plants, and so if you add into your small ecosystem of your garden some of these ladybugs, they can maybe control these aphid pests so that you don't have to use a synthetic pesticide to control them. Now you have to be careful that these organisms you're introducing are not invasive species. Ideally they would be native to the area, but that's what biocontrol is, using a predator to control a pest. Intercropping is a method of farming in which you have various crops growing together, separated by some space. In intercropping, for example, you might have a row of corn growing next to a row of soybeans, growing next to a row of potato, and therefore if you have a pest of the corn, it's more difficult for that pest to spread throughout the field because you have these other crops that it's likely not a pest of in between. So that's called intercropping. Rotating crops, so growing corn in the field one year, and the next year soybeans, and rotating the type of plant you're growing year to year can prevent eggs and the larvae that were present on the potatoes. If you're planting corn the next season, then they're unlikely to infect the corn. That's called crop rotation. And IPM can use pesticides. It tries to limit the use of pesticides, but once the situation is analyzed, the specific and targeted use of pesticides is appropriate in integrated pest management. So as you can imagine, IPM is a better strategy environmentally, but it's much more complex. It requires a lot of knowledge, it requires training. It can be more expensive than just spraying a field with a given pesticide. So there are some trade-offs related to using IPM versus using traditional synthetic pesticides to control these infestations.